Jameson joins us now. The book is I Find Your Lack of Faith Disturbing. I try and do it in a Darth Vader voice, but frankly, I'm sure you've heard a lot of that already during the course of your book tour.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I find it interesting that you say, this geek culture. It's interesting because the motion picture industry has basically shifted gears from, Saving Private Ryan, Titanic, something about Mary, relationships and comedies and war films and so on and so forth, to basically what I call franchise films. And I guess Marvel was the first one to get the ball rolling on all this, weren't they? Or was it Star Wars?
No, you definitely. Well, that's the funny thing about it is when I started writing the book, I was trying to figure out. I mean, you can keep pushing it back. There's always going to be kind of earlier examples, but I was kind of looking for what were the landmarks. You certainly have Star Wars in '77, but then it seems like at some time in the '90s, the late '90s. I say in the book 1999 is when that kind of franchise model really started taking hold, and the geeks really started to inherit the earth.
Is this a safety factor on the part of the people who make the movies? Because that's where it's really being driven from. Is it a safe factor because they know that they can put out a series of films that are all based on the same genre, like Marvel, and it's a almost guaranteed moneymaker for the movie companies?
Oh yeah, that's a large part of it for sure. Hollywood, Hollywood has always been in the business of trying to minimize risk. When they make these movies, they're incredibly expensive, and they want to try and guarantee that they're going to get their money back. Like any other kind of financial model, there's no guarantees in life. Some of them don't do so well. You look at a movie like Justice League, didn't do as well. The new Star Trek movies haven't really been doing so well. So there's no guarantee. And another thing I write about in the book too is that even though when you make these franchises, you can get a lot of fans, a lot of people become fans of the franchises, will show up to see anything. It also creates some new problems because maybe the more the franchise goes on, the harder it gets for other people to get into it. You look at something like the new Marvel movie, the Avengers film that came out. It's the 19th film in that series and has the things that make it so appealing for so many fans. It's got 40 characters. It's the 19th film. It can also look a bit daunting for people who are outside that fandom.
Used to be that if you called somebody a geek, it was sort of a negative or a put down. Has that changed in your world, in your mind's eye?
Yeah, totally. I grew up a geek. When I was a kid, I read comic books and played video games and watched Star Trek, played Magic the Gathering, things like that, and I didn't make a big deal out of them. When I read my X-Men comics at school and played Magic and stuff, we kind of hid it. But I think the tides are really turning there. I see people reading comics on the bus, on the subway, out in public, and attendance at conventions has exploded. There's X-Men movies and Avengers movies in theaters that are making tremendous amounts of money. So something's definitely shifted, especially I think in the past 15, 20 years in particular.
And the Comic Cons are just any of these gatherings seem to draw more people all the time. Book is really interesting, and I thank you for joining us this morning.